meeting to order. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here. I would like to start off with the Pledge of Allegiance, and Christy Campos will help us. Thank you.
Would you stand and join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, all our board members are present tonight. There are a few addendum items. Comprehensive annual financial audit report presentation, out-of-state overnight travel requests, PCCS financial audit management letter, school plan facilities levy discussion, and student enrollment information. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda with the addenda.
I move we approve the agenda with the addenda.
No, second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Hearing none opposed, the motion is passed. Next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes as corrected. Probably should read those minutes. Are they on here? Yeah? No,
They're in the.
they're in farther, that's fine. Is there a motion?
I move that we approve.
Okay, I move that we approve the minutes.
And I'll second that.
Okay,
Okay.
As corrected.
as corrected.
As corrected, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Hearing none opposed, the motion is passed. Next on the agenda is the approval of the consent agenda, which includes authorizing the payment of claims, approving the supplemental financial information, and approving the human resources activities. I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hearing none opposed, that motion is passed. For recognitions tonight, Dr. Howell is going to help us. All right.
Filling in.
Thank you.
Thank you. Tonight I'm here, board members, Ms. Johnson, student representatives, to share with you our CAKE Awards. And our district believes in a safe, supportive, caring environment and that it is critical to student learning. The district's Education Foundation, in partnership with McDonald's, supports the Learner of the Month Award to recognize those students who show great character. The Learner of the Month CAKE Award recognizes one elementary learner and one secondary learner from our district from October through May. The CAKE Award celebrates positive, and this is where the CAKE acronym comes in, positive character, attitude, kindness, and encouragement toward others. In addition to being recognized here at the monthly board meetings, the recipients also receive cupcakes to be delivered to their classrooms, accompanied by Idaho State University's Benny the Bengal, to be enjoyed with and among their peers. Nominations for the CAKE Award are submitted by a teacher who has observed the nominee's behavior and are approved by the school's principal. So for our elementary learner, I would like to invite Cash Newbold and his teacher, Ms. Katie Burrup, to please come forward, and also Principal Chris Campos. How about if I have you join me right over here? Yes, please. All right. Yeah. And pictures or anything, you're welcome to come up and get a shot right over here if you'd like. Cash is a third grade learner and attends Wilcox Elementary School. In her nomination letter, Ms. Burrup wrote, "Cash deserves this award because he fits every requirement that is needed to win it and more. Cash shows compassion for all students in his class and pays close attention to students who may need a friend. He is always offering help whenever needed to his teacher and to his classmates. Cash can be reserved and sometimes isn't quite as confident, but he has such a positive attitude that he can always pull himself out of the pit." That's the learning pit, right? He uses kind words and tries to build other people up when they need an extra boost. Cash's, I have a case at home, so sorry, I'm kind of messed that one up. Cash's character is one of my favorite things about him, and I think he has the biggest heart. I'm so thankful to have him in my class. He is loved more than he will ever know. Wow. So, with that, tomorrow, on Wednesday, October 16th, Cash will be recognized among his peers with cupcakes for everyone in his class. Cash and his teacher, sorry, Cash, I'll get it right. His teacher will receive a gift card from our sponsor, McDonald's. That sounds good, huh? Happy Meal coming your way. And the school's library will receive a $50 donation to purchase books in the award recipient's name, so in Cash's name. Also from our partner, Pocatello and Chubbuck McDonald's. Please join me in congratulating Cash for being named our Elementary Learner of the Month for character, attitude, kindness, and encouragement. And I have a certificate here for you, Cash, and say thank you very much for everything that you do. And I would like for you, your teacher, and Ms. Campos to go see the board and be congratulated.
You want me to go first?
Oh, come this way, Cash.
Can you do it?
Congratulations, buddy. Good job.
Thank you. Sound like a great young man.
Good job.
Will Marissa Crowder and her teacher, Miss Megan Brockett, please come forward? Hi, Marissa. Welcome. Marissa is a sophomore attending Century High School. According to Miss Brockett, Marissa is a wonderful example to all her peers and teammates and even adults. She truly embraces the cake characteristics in the classroom, altruistically and athletically. Marissa is never afraid to stand up for someone, and she is the first to volunteer to help, even on weekends and after school. She arrives early and stays late and carries a positive attitude with her everywhere she goes. She puts others before herself, helping one of our teammates get ready for school after practice and walking her to her classroom before getting herself ready and taking time out of her own getting ready time. Okay, I think I got that figured out. Marissa always makes sure our teammates are never left behind and constantly looks out for her needs, and always making sure she's having a good time. So this is talking about one person specifically that you really go outside and above and beyond, in addition to everyone else, I'm guessing. She's the first to ask if someone is okay if she notices them having a bad day or notices them hurting, even her coach. She is a professional in her interactions with the public and adults and really embraces Century High School standards. She is involved with NHS, cheer, babysitting, and family activities and juggles it all with such grace and passion. Marissa is truly deserving of the Cake Award for her help with our teammate, but also for her relentless positivity and kindness. Marissa will also be recognized among her peers with cupcakes for everyone in her class. I don't know what period that will be, but I'm sure they'll schedule it. Okay, at practice. Excellent. She and Ms. Brockett will receive a gift card from McDonald's, and the school's library will also receive a $50 donation to purchase books in Marissa's name from our partner, Pocatello Chubbuck McDonald's. And so with that, I have a certificate for you. Please join with me in congratulating Marissa Crowder for her accomplishment. That's the money shot right there. I'll just step over there. Okay, if you'll just go through and have the board say thanks.
Thanks for sharing. Thanks for the nomination.
Thanks for your nomination.
Okay, now it's time for portion of the meeting for public comment for items that are not on the agenda, and I have not received a request, so we'll move on. Next on the agenda is reports, and our student reports, and Easton Wheelock. Would you like to speak to us, please?
Yeah. At Highland tomorrow we have the PSAT testing for sophomores and juniors. Our homecoming week, which was the Friday, October 4th, so a couple weeks ago, was a success and everything went smoothly. Junior Civitan has organized Socktober, which is to bring in and donate socks to those in need, and that ends on the 18th.
Okay, next up is Century High School, Coleman Sandy.
Okay. So Century has been doing really good this last month. Student Council is full speed ahead with our STAR project, and we are planning a school service project for the school tomorrow for the seniors and freshmen to do while the juniors and sophomores are doing their PSAT. So we're excited about that. Both our cheer and dance participated in the ISU homecoming parade, so they represented Century pretty well. And then drama is hard at work with their upcoming play, 12 Angry Jurors, and we just want to invite you guys to attend this weekend, the 17th through the 21st at 7. And then with some sports is both our volleyball and swim teams are headed into their district settings this next week. Volleyball will be hosted at Century this weekend. And then this Friday, we're taking a bus up to CSI for a campus tour. So kids can go tour that campus, and on the way back, we're stopping in Minico to watch our football game and go and cheer them on. We also have our roundup that is coming up, which is our silent auction, and that's on November 7th. We'd love to see you guys there. And we are preparing for our Veterans Day assembly that's coming up next month. And then just a few congratulations is we both volleyball and boys soccer won the Academic Excellence State Award for 4A, and then our band won their Superior Band Award and first place overall at their competition last week. And then we just want to congrats Marissa for her award as well.
And Coleman, didn't I see you at halftime at your homecoming game?
Yeah, I won homecoming game.
That's
so I was
awesome.
there.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Can you say again the roundup, the date?
The roundup is November 7th.
So,
Do we think
I would leave the 8th. When do we leave?
I think,
It's that date.
yeah, so we're up there.
We might.
next year.
And we've been missing it several years now.
Yeah, we'll just have to reschedule something. You're excused. Love to have you stay. We have a financial report next.
I gotta go watch volleyball.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for being here.
I thought I introduced you. No, I did not.
That's all right. I didn't want to be presumptuous.
No,
So,
no. Go right ahead. Comprehensive annual financial audit report, Mr. Bartley.
I thought you were just soaking in the beauty of the report coming around one more year.
Up there.
Well, thank you, Chairman Mattson and members of the board and Superintendent Howell. I'm privileged to be able to present our comprehensive annual financial report for our last fiscal year. It's always quite an undertaking to be able to put this all together and to have it come together. It's a pretty extensive document, as you know, about 140 pages, and every page is kind of painstakingly put together as we try to do the best that we can. I obviously am not going to go over every single page or every single detail, but just will highlight some of the main points. First of all, let me just say that the past couple of years, with the State Department of Education coming through with a little bit more additional funding, our financial picture is looking better than what it has been. And so we are in good shape financially, which is always good news. We haven't had to consider significant budget cuts as we've done in the past, which is always wonderful not to have to sit down around a table and figure out how you're going to cut programs and those sorts of things. So things have looked better the last couple of years, and these financial statements will reflect that. I think, see if I can get this to work. Says on. Do I need to point it somewhere else, Renee, or? Yep. That's not gonna work. Well, let's see here.
I was gonna say, yeah, I think.
Can you get rid of those things there? There we go. First of all, I think that you know, and the layout of the financial report has not changed significantly over the last number of years. There's 4 major sections: introductory, financial, statistical, and single audit. I'm going to talk about some of the components in those first 3, and then I'll turn the time over to our auditors for the last area there. One of the things that we are very proud of and that we have done for the past 28 years is we have submitted our comprehensive annual financial report to both national organizations who deal with the Certificate of Excellence in Financial Reporting Awards. That's both the Government Finance Officers Association and the Association of School Business Officials. And we are the only school district in the state of Idaho who has actually received both of these awards for the last 28 years. And this is important in regard to disclosure, transparency, but also in the event that we do school bonds, it saves us a considerable amount of money off of interest and lowers our rate if we have this type of rating and awards that we've received. Couple of highlights that I just want to go over with you in regard to the general fund. Our revenues exceeded our budget estimates by $1,100,000 approximately, or about 1.5% of our budget. We are somewhat conservative when we budget our revenues, making sure that the revenues don't fall short. Otherwise, we would be in a different situation. Some of the highlights there is we received nearly $500,000 more in interest earnings than what we had projected, partially because rates have gone up during that period of time. Our state-based appropriation, which is our student enrollment, also was higher than we anticipated, slightly by about $634,000. And our Medicaid funding also increased slightly, again, up about $85,000 due to some education expenditures that we make for special education. On the expenditure side of this, you can see that we were under budget a little over $2 million, or about 2.6% overall of the overall expenditures which were made. We're actually fairly close in salaries and benefits, are about $300,000 under budget. And when you consider a almost a $67 million budget for salaries and benefits, that's fairly close. But we do a midterm budget adjustment that helps us bring in a little bit closer in line there. Our utilities in our last work session, Brian Glenn went over the cost avoidance that was close to $900,000 because of our energy savings. Our utilities were underspent a little under $500,000 in electricity, natural gas, and water. And then our professional budget was also underspent, $466,000, and tools and textbooks were underspent by $700,000. So all those contribute to that $2 million that we were underspent overall. Consequently, our unassigned fund balance is very close to what it was last year, slightly under what it was last year. It sits at $11,231,000 approximately. And that represents, last year it was 58 days of operation, this year it's 56 days of operation overall. And I've always shown you this comment here from GFOA that was sometime that they do recommend that school districts do have a fund balance where they can fall back on in case of rainy days or unfunded revenues that may not come forward. This is a copy of the last 3 years of our fund balance, and if you look there in that first section under the general fund, you'll see the unreserved, unassigned fund balance was sitting at about $8.8 million 2 years ago. It crept up to $11,000,007 in 2018, and now sits at $11,231,000, which is what I just showed you. On the bottom there, under the orange section, you can see that we're sitting at about 22 million, almost $23 million in overall fund balance. If you look up just above that $22 million, you'll see under the assigned fund balance where it shows $9.7 million. A large portion of that is the money that's sitting aside reserved for Pocatello High School, so you'll see why that has grown so much from the prior year. This just represents how the monies come in. As you can see, 73% of our money comes in through our state-based apportionment based upon our student enrollment. The other major portion of that is property taxes, almost at 16%, and that has actually dropped down a little bit because we don't have our debt service portion of that. And then our federal assistance sitting at about 9%. On the expenditure side, we spend nearly 65% of our money goes directly for instruction, the other 30% for support services, and about 5% for capital outlay to maintain our facilities and for construction and renovation. This is a snapshot of the district as a whole, not just the general fund, but all funds considered. We're sitting at about 78, almost 79% salaries and benefits. The next largest portion of that is in supplies. Let's see. Salaries, then the benefits at 22% there, and then the other components there are listed there on the side between supplies, capital objects, etc. The part that I really like most about the report is the statistical section, and it kind of gives you a read-in on really what is happening in the economy and with our district. For example, this is the assessed and estimated actual value of property in Bannock County. And if you look there at the last line on 2018, you can see that our property values, the total assessed property value has gone up from $3,497,000,000 to $3,580,000. So we've had a pretty substantial increase in property values, and that is reflective of what we've seen in the real estate market and some of the increased values that we've seen at Bannock County over the last year. You can see also that the homeowner's exemption has been fixed now for the last 3 years at $100,000, and that is the plan for that to remain constant over the coming years until they change that. This is a representation of our enrollment over, I think, about the last 40 years approximately. And you can see that we have just maintained somewhat of a level enrollment here the last number of years. Not much growth there. We did grow a few students between fiscal year 2018 and 2019, but you can see in that shaded blue area that we are projecting a possibility of a slight decrease in enrollment, and in fact, even this year, I think that we're down, wasn't it about 100 students overall, K through 12. This is demographic and economic statistic, and if you could look in the last couple years there, you can see that our population has grown not quite 2,000 from 18 to 19, and our school enrollment is up slightly with that additional population, and our unemployment rate has, for the last 3 years actually, has remained under 3% at 2.7% for the last 2 years. So that is one of the reasons why we find a little bit of difficulty in hiring new employees with the district, because unemployment rate is so low. This shows the property and construction values over the last 10 years and just kind of a 3-year highlight on the bottom. One of the things that I would indicate to you is if you look there under commercial construction that we had significantly less number of permits this last year in 2019, but the value was up significantly there at $86 million. If you look at on the residential side, the housing number of permits issued was less than it was, about 40 less than it was the prior year. However, I guess that's about 50 less than the prior year. However, if you look at the value there of 24 million versus 22 million of the year before, you can see that that value with even less permits, either larger homes are being built or the cost of those homes most likely is more money this past year than it was the year before. And I think that we have seen that reflected in our community as well. Lastly, this is always a great slide here to show our teaching staff. We have 688 certified staff on board. As you look at that, if you look at the very bottom bar there where it shows teachers with master's or higher education, 54% of our staff are very highly qualified, very highly educated teachers, which deal with our students every single day. And so we're good to see that. And then also, if you look at the general fund expenditures, which now sits at $6,209, and all funds that being $8,076, that has come up significantly in the last 2 years with additional state funding as well. And really, unless you have any specific questions, those are the highlights that I wanted to address, not to belabor or lengthen this out too much. And with that, I will turn the time over to our independent auditing firm, which is Deaton & Company, represented by Mr. Doran Lamson, one of the partners that we work with. We find them to be very professional in their engagement. We appreciate the fact that they come in, they get their work done, and they don't inundate our staff too awful much. And we appreciate the help and their assistance with our audit engagement. So, Doran?
I'm a little shorter than Mr. Reed. All right, my name is Doran Lamson with Deaton & Company. Just share a little bit about myself. I am a CPA with Deaton & Company and a partner. Other than that, nobody else seems to care about anything else, so that's it. No. But do want to go right into our independent auditors report. I like to let people know that we were asked to perform what's called a financial statement audit. And a financial statement audit means that we're required to present or to evaluate the financial statements. In doing so, we perform audit procedures where we evaluate controls and evaluate and assess risk on those controls to help us obtain sufficient information to perform sample testing or additional analysis. In doing so, we don't give an opinion on those controls, but we evaluate the risk, and in doing so, we have tested on a sample basis the various transactions and on accounts. We've done this in a way that we can provide an opinion that is appropriate for the financial statements, and our opinion is that the financial statements are presented fairly in all material respects. That being said, these are management's financial statements, and they're responsible ensuring the compliance with those controls. And we've had the opportunity to discuss with management those controls, and we appreciate management's desire to always keep strong controls. We've also had the opportunity to meet with the chair, Mr. Madsen, and found that as a board, you guys are doing a great job looking at controls, evaluating the manuals and policies, and we appreciate your guys' dedication and hard work in doing that. In doing so, we have performed the audit in accordance with government auditing standards, which also requires that we issue a report on the internal controls. We don't provide an opinion, once again, like I said before, but we do provide a report on internal controls where we evaluate if there's any controls that are significant or material deficiencies in the report. We're required to provide those. And during our audit, we did not find such deficiencies or material deficiencies in the controls that would be required to be issued in the report. Also, because you guys have expenditures that exceed $750,000 in federal expenditures, we're required to perform a single audit, which has also been performed, and in such we provide an unmodified opinion where we found no issues of significant deficiencies or non-compliance in controls. That being said, we do want to give kudos to the school district, as Bart has already presented. It is quite the achievement to get both those awards from the GFOA and the ASBA. Thank you. Yes. And so, sorry, I'm anyway, we have, we want to really also give thanks to management for their assistance. This is quite the process. We try not to bother them too much, but it is pretty intrusive at times, and so we do appreciate their patience as we go through and check numbers and cross-check. That being said, we also want to thank Dr. Howell and his participation in this, and once again, like I said, Chair Mattson and Bart Reed for his hard work. There's a lot that goes behind the scenes in verifying this and auditing. And I've once heard the term that the auditors are those that come and bayonet the wounded after the war, and we try not to be like that, but we do try to assist. And I feel like together we've worked really hard in ensuring a good quality CAFR that you have here. Thank you.
Okay, you done? Okay. Right. Brenda Minor. You're next up. Media report and community relations update. Thank you, Bart.
Do you want to take that off of there?
Good evening, Mr. Chair, trustees, Dr. Howell, student representatives, and Ms. Johnson. I'm doing this for Courtney tonight, and so I'm a little nervous. If you have any questions, she'll be back tomorrow. So, over the past month, popular social media posts and other education news of interest in the public purview included the sale of the Bonneville building, district implementation of Proposity app to aid students in need, transportation, student engagement surveys, education task force subcommittee recommendations, and crosswalk and pedestrian safety. On the social media, we posted a total of 47 times on Facebook. Our page likes and page follows are holding steady at about 7,673 and then 8,417. Total post engagement, which includes comments, likes, and shares, was 7,499, 1,970 page views, and our total reach was 21,706. Video views totaled 2,701, which was a significant increase over the past month. We have 393 followers on Instagram and 271 followers on Twitter. And already just this first month, we have 332 followers on Proposity. On the website, it shows that we have 53,625 users, 43,904 new users, and 238,554 page views. So 2.2 pages viewed per session in 108,466 sessions. 54.92% of users viewed from a mobile device. And then our top 10 pages that were viewed were the homepage, Pocatello High School homepage, food services for elementary, maps, food services homepage, Highland High School homepage, district links, transportation, and food services for the secondary. And then under the community relations component, Everyday Matters attendance campaign, Courtney talks about as the holidays approach, we'll be continuing to highlight the importance of attendance throughout October, November, and December on social media, parent communication, and our Jeeves ads. As you go out and about in the community to restaurants, tire stores, Gold's Gym, and other local businesses, you may notice our ads on Jeeves ad screens. We're currently highlighting Proposity, attendance, and some fun facts and safety statistics about our transportation department. We will also soon start highlighting our Cake Award and Pie Award recipients and other accomplishments earned by Pocatello Chubbuck School District learners. As far as Festival of Trees, planning for the Festival of Trees is well underway, and our promotional materials should be finalized by the end of this week. Tickets go on sale October 25th for all events, so mark your calendars. The gala is Tuesday, November 19th. Thank you.
Next, it's time to move on to the curriculum, instruction, and school safety. And the first are all four coming up together. Mr. Orr, this would be the federal programs budget report. Mr. Orr, Ms. Knapp's, Ms. Kinghorn, Mr. Minor. Yes, you are. All right. Come on up.
Maybe we'll just go in the order that we're listed there, if that's okay. I'll start first with Title IIA. The allotment for the 1920 school year actually was reduced by about $40,000 this year, which is a fairly substantial reduction. The allocation for the 1920 school year was slightly more than $389,000. And we are allowed to carry over 25% of the previous year's budget allocation, which totaled $106,000. That makes the total budget amount almost $496,000. This budget supports a portion of several staff members' salaries and benefits, and you can see that those are listed on the first page, and they're very similar to what we've had in past years. These funds are also used to support our new teacher support program, including stipends for teachers who serve as a mentor for new staff members at the secondary level. The budget also supports stipends for our elementary STEM coaches and our secondary instructional technology coaches, and a variety of instructor salaries for our professional development courses that are offered within the district. The private school set-aside, which is determined by the state, is slightly more than $17,000 this year. And among other things, this budget also supports professional development for all of our non-Title I schools, which is the line item that you see beneath the subtotal on page 2. This is the line item that was actually reduced by $40,000. The reduced amount from this budget actually was shifted to our state professional development funds. So consequently and thankfully, the schools didn't see a decrease in the amount of funds that they have available for professional development for the 1920 school year. And the remainder of the line items in this budget are really consistent with the past years, and unless you have any questions, they're fairly self-explanatory.
Questions? No? Thank you.
Good evening. Gretchen Kinghorn, Federal Programs. So this year for the board report, I made a table, broke it out just a little bit. Would like to start with our Title IA allocation. Notice at the top I've said projected. It used to be that our final allocation was determined pretty early in the spring. The state now is expecting that that final allocation will be confirmed by December 1st for this school year. So it's looking good, but until it's actually solidified by the federal government, these are projections. So for Title IA, our allocation is $2,617,322. You can see to the right, I've broken out the money that we have allocated for homeless education, our neglected delinquent program, family engagement, which is required. We always set aside a little bit more because we do a lot of community outreach with our family engagement. Overall program costs, which include salaries for our instructional consultants, professional development, travel, curriculum, etc. We're holding steady with our allowable carryover at $409,000. That's 15%, which we're allowed, and we work very hard to maintain that. Mr. Reed talked earlier about the importance of that. And then we end up flowing just over $1 million to our schools, which helps pay for teachers, paraprofessionals, professional development, curriculum materials, printing, etc. Last year, the state started breaking out Title ID. That was a little bit different. They now recognize all 4 of those institutions in our region and provide a per pupil expenditure determined by if they're classified as neglected or as delinquent. So we are the flow-through for each of those institutions. Title III, our funding held exactly steady. We now have 151 English language learners in our district and 19 languages. Equitable services, Mr. Orr spoke. We used to be able to determine the per pupil expenditure for each of our schools, but the state now does that for us. And so you can see our private school partners, what their allocation will be this year. Next, Language Acquisition Fund is a state and federal fund tied back to our English learners. And then at the bottom, Title IV, you may recall last year that was a new fund. Out of Title IV, that is a designated student support fund for neglected and delinquent. It helps to fund positions at New Horizon, Youth Development Center, Juvenile Detention Center. We collaborated with the DARE program for summer activities and counseling. It helps support our Chief Turnaround Officer at New Horizon, as well as 9.5 community resource workers that are split between that and our Title I-A budgets. Any questions over any of those?
Well, thank you.
Okay.
Hello. Well, things are great in CTE world. So I'm about to tell you about the Carl Perkins grant. Much like what Gretchen just said, these are projected numbers. Our final allocation will probably come around the end of November. So, but we're well on our way, and I'm sure the money will show up. So we'll just get started. First, I wanted to give you just a little recap because unlike my buddies are sitting here with me, we don't get a lot of money in the Carl Perkins grant, but we do a lot of really great things with it. And so last year we were able to hire a part-time teacher to go to both Century and Highland and teach the orientation to the first responders program and try to get that out to those freshmen and sophomores to let them know about the program and they didn't have to try to travel at such a younger age. We also hired a part-time teacher to continue the vet tech program. And that teacher has just really, she's just done a great job. Her numbers are up, the kids are excited. They're partnering with different people in the community, including Zoo Idaho, and they've just done some really great things. We were also able to buy a TriCaster. We bought a mill and a lathe for our pre-engineering program, and our 52-year-old forklift at Highland, it finally retired itself. So the bus garage told me couldn't fix it one more time. So we bought a new refurbished forklift for the welding program, and it'll probably be up there for the next 50 years. So we did some really great things last year with the money. You'll notice that this year we're down just a little bit, but as far as the allocation, but this is working off numbers of 2 years ago. And none of these numbers can we control. And so this is what we are getting, and so we're putting our best step forward. We're going to continue on with the teacher for the first responders and the vet tech. We also are going to work really hard this year to increase the number of job sites that students can go out and work an internship or at least a job shadow or possibly even just seasonal work. And that takes a person to be able to call and coordinate all of that. So we've put some money towards that and so to some professional development conferences. We're planning to replace 108 Chromebooks, which would be the equivalent of 3 carts, because after 5 years, they're getting to the point where they can't really continue. So we're going to start replacing those. We bought some Kindles and some little robots for those ethical hacking and cyber forensics class that we're teaching out at Century. Those have been very popular, I understand.
I've never heard that phrase, ethical hacking.
Ethical hacking, yes.
Yes, those are the people that try to break the system so that you know where to fix it before the bad guy gets there. You know, and we have the new medical assistant program going at Century. It's been very well received. We have a lot of students interested, but we did take quite a bit of money, and we're replacing the equipment that we need and build up so that she has everything she needs. We're buying a full-size horse model for the vet tech program so that they can look at a horse in full size, all the muscle and bone structures. I have no idea where we're storing this once we get it, but it's on its way apparently. And probably one of the most exciting things I think that has happened with the new Perkins grant is that they will allow us to now help students that are economically disadvantaged to be able to pay their student organization fees and help them if they need to get their fees paid, then we can do that for them now. And so it takes that barrier down for some students that just wouldn't be able to join the club otherwise. So things are good. Anyone have any questions?
Good evening. Dave Miner, Special Education. I want to quickly go over our IDEA Part B school age and preschool budgets. Please bear in mind that this is preliminary. In the world of special education, our budget funding cycle is different than what one would consider a typical fiscal year. We account for expenditures June, 1st of July through September, right? So there are essentially 3 months that aren't accounted for here. The application process itself is due middle of November, following our November 1 child count. As we go through this, just bear in mind that all of these expenditures are preliminary and have not been actually approved by the state of Idaho through their Funding and Fiscal Accountability Department. But we'll start the year off as we have for the last, handful of years, getting an allocation of about $2.5 million through our IDEA Part B school age. That takes care of all of our paraprofessionals essentially out of that Part B school age budget. We hire and employ roughly 125 paraprofessionals. That's including instructional paraprofessionals, our personal care assistants that work in our special population programs, as well as our behavior techs, with the exception of just a few certified staff people. This budget covers essentially our paraprofessionals. That carryover amount is please disregard it. That's misleading. That carryover amount has not been entered into our budgeting process, so to speak. So that number will be considerably less when we factor in the 3 months that aren't considered here. People like to believe that the more special education students you have in a district, the more money that comes with a special education student. That is a misnomer. We're funded at essentially a flat rate, if you will, that takes into consideration demographic variables in the community, poverty indicators, and things of that nature. So there was the misconception that if we could just identify more students, ethically, of course, if we could identify students, more money would come per IEP. Well, that's not the case, right? So, hence we don't do that, right? We don't over-identify. Our identification practices are very up to par with all of that. Most of this money is taken care of in salaries, benefits, purchase services, to include such things as we do a fair amount of contracting with our OT, PT, a couple of our SLPs are contracted now. We have a couple of new contracted nurses that we're working with. We have found a significant increase in the number of medically fragile students that are coming to us now, with a whole host of issues that require ongoing nursing care. So that tends to come out of this budget as well. Of importance is our private school proportionate share. There's the disbelief that our private schools actually get that amount of money, which is $5,465. Essentially, what that is, that's a if I can explain this correctly, that's kind of a holdout amount that we, for students who are receiving special education services but who are attending private schools, through our letter of affirmation and our agreement with our private school companions in the district, that money represents the amount of money that we hold out for a child who's been identified appropriately from the private school, that then we that takes care of the personnel who are actually out there providing the services. So an example would be this money would go to pay for, in part, for the services that one of our SLPs might be delivering to a private school student, or if a private school student is attending one of our resource room programs in one of our buildings, that's proportionally pulled out of that to account for the money that the district is spending to provide those special education services to students who are appropriately identified from the private school. And then with our preschool budget, it is a fair amount less, but that takes care of our paraprofessionals, at the Lincoln Center primarily. That's where all this is coming, our Lincoln Early Intervention Center, and that takes care of our paras. Yeah, the paraprofessionals are paid solely from the IDE Part B school age and preschool budgets. So I did. Unlike what I've done in the past, I did provide a bit of a narrative summary to each of those line items there to kind of help explain where that money is going. But I think most importantly, it's important for us to understand, or people to understand, that special education isn't dependent upon funding through the identification of students with special education needs. And unfortunately, I was under that misconception as well years ago. But now I'm wiser, right? And I understand that's not how that goes, right? That more students receiving services doesn't equate to more money that we get through our grant allocation from the federal government. So if you have any questions, I would love to answer anything you might have.
Sounds complex.
Yes, complex. Well, thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Chuck, you want to stay?
I will.
Day of professional learning.
So you know that October 4th, Friday, was a statewide in-service day, and our district hosted a day of professional learning at Highland High School for probably in excess of 400 staff members. They could choose from among nearly 100 sessions that were offered in 4 different sessions throughout the day, each 75 minutes long. And I believe you received the schedule to that event prior to October 4th. So
What happened to Pick Your Passion?
it's the same thing, we just renamed it. Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's kind of went with our focus from the beginning of the year, back, stemmed back to our building leadership team retreat, when our schools worked on what their professional learning focus was going to be for the year. So same type of event, different name. Yeah. So our staff members were asked to attend one of the sessions offered by Michael McDowell, who took us deeper into visible learning, with a session titled Teaching for Transfer, 3 Key Practices that Enable Students to Apply Their Knowledge. And then they could choose from 3 other sessions to attend during the day. We sent out, pardon?
How do you keep track of that? If they attended or not? Did they sign their name or?
Well, we had a sign-in at the beginning of the day and then right after lunchtime. So we didn't do a sign-in, for Michael's session. We just trusted that people would attend and then pick 3 others of
I didn't mean
their
to
choice.
I
Yeah.
just wondered what the accountability is.
Right.
you know.
And the sign-in sheets for the morning and afternoon were then, sent back to the principals so they could double-check it
Okay.
with regard to
All right.
where the
Thank
rest
you.
of their staff was.
Just wondered how you do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
We sent out an evaluation to our staff afterward, and as of last Friday, we had about 190 responses. And of those responses, 94.2% rated the day as either satisfactory or fantastic. When asked what sessions or topics they would like to see offered again, many indicated Michael McDowell. The Percy sessions were very popular, and any technology-related sessions, just to name a few. And then what asked what sessions or topics they'd like to see added, quite a few staff members indicated sessions specific to their role, like school counselors or SLPs or special education. Classroom management was also mentioned, love and logic, as well as subject or content-specific sessions. Many people noted that the variety of sessions that were offered was great. So all in all, it was a really positive day, and I'd just like to publicly recognize Kathy Luris, who really spearheaded this event and did just an outstanding job getting it organized and providing that attention to detail to pull off an event like this. Do you have any questions? Okay, thank you.
Should be, thank you. Marissa, I think you're gonna get some flowers.
Yeah.
We'll take a break.
For recognition again, maybe
We'll
a
take a break.
recognition follow-up? Yeah. Come right over here, will you?
Good for you.
Just, would you like to say anything about Marissa? Yeah. Okay, all right. How about if I have you come over here to the microphone? Or we could just. John, tell us about Marissa.
Marissa? Guiding into Marissa.
All your help
Needing help.
for being so caring.
Between the Chris.
You're so amazing
Watching the friend sing.
and such a good friend.
Watching a friend.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks again, Marissa. Looks like you got something special there.
Yeah,
All right, great.
Thank you.
yeah. Okay, next up, Ms. Craney,
Yes.
Head Start program update, first of all.
All right. The enrollment at Head Start is full with 183 students. In the 4-year-old class, 4 children withdrew from the program, and the reasons were that they moved out of the area. 3-year-old class, 3 children withdrew. One of them had never attended the class. No transportation was another, and a parent decided that they weren't ready for school was another reason for withdrawing. On the wait list, there's 15 on the 4-year-old wait list, 25 on the 3-year-old wait list, and advocates are continuing to take applications. For the average daily attendance for September, it was 89.52%. Chronic absenteeism saw 32 moderate, 32 severe, and that's for the entire program to date. This was an increase from last year, mostly due to the lack of busing, which we'll talk about in just a minute. Last year at this time, there was absenteeism was 22 moderate and 23 severe. So you know that we are looking to add the busing. So the bus company informed that they would not be able to deliver the 4 buses until mid-November. The delay was with the manufacturer. Originally, they planned to deliver by the 1st of October, so families thought, we can make it till the 1st of October. So that's why some of them, it has created a hardship for some of the families, and the attendance is down due to that. And it has impacted students getting to school. Once we get them, it'll be a very good thing, but it's a matter of getting them there. The program has hired 4 bus drivers. 2 already have their CDL licenses, and the other 2 will be going through training within the week. So we're ready to go. We just need to get those buses there. And I've been told that there are weekly calls made to the manufacturer to be checking on these. right, Mrs. Rose? There was one resignation. A family advocate left to take a position within the district as a community resource worker. The remaining advocates are picking up the caseload until a new advocate's hired. Otherwise, there are 3 temporary and 1 part-time program aide positions that are open. The Policy Council was seated on October 10th, and they're very excited to get started. I went to the meeting last week and have a very enthusiastic group. Policy Council officers will be elected in November. The program will have a federal review the week of October 21st. It's an off-site review with daily conference calls. The reviewer will be asking questions covering all areas of the program, and the program is busy preparing for that. For parent engagement, you may have seen that there was, in the ISU parade, there was ISU homecoming parade. The parents put together a float and were in the parade, and it was Head Start to the Future. Families walked the parade route, distributing program flyers, pencils, crayons, and toothbrushes for families to use after eating all the parade candy. I needed it. The children made signs as to what they wanted to be when they grew up. There were a few Head Start alumni who graduated from ISU as part of the contingency. Everyone had a good time with that. It's wonderful to see the parent group so active, and I think that's just a real kudos to the Head Start program. Okay, any questions? Next is the 21st Century After School Program. They started September 30th, and Ms. Case was very excited to see that the enrollment is nearly full for that program. They didn't start soft this year and ease them into it and keep adding more students. A lot of them started and were up to full capacity, right away. So, we're excited about the possibilities we'll have for that program. In January, there'll be a grant that's due, the one with Tyhee, Wilcox, Tendoy, Green Acres, Hawthorne. That grant will be expiring and at the end of this school year, and we'll be looking to write a new grant and exploring those options there. They're nearly fully staffed, and they only have 1 instructional assistant that they need to fill a position, but they are just really close to having that done. For the summer kindergarten boot camp, there's some data that I put in there. We had 9 schools that participated in the boot camp with varying days, and I just kind of put a chart in there. So several of the schools had 8 days, and then Wilcox had 7 days. They had a day when they had BLT training, and they didn't have, the teacher was involved in that. Some of them had 6 days. Washington started after we had our August registration. And then Jefferson, they were only able to go 4 days, and that was due to staffing. And a lot of it is the reason the other schools weren't participating is because of staffing. You have to find people who are willing to give up a couple weeks of their summer in order to do that. The total attendance was 154 students, and about $17,252, which came out of literacy, but the Monsanto Bear had a $1,500 contribution to the literacy program. And you'll see from the data that's in there, we had increases in academics. 57% of the students were able to write their name at the conclusion of the boot camp, where only about 1/3 of them in the spring were able to. The number that they could count to increased from 6 to 8, and the average, and identifying letters, they had an average of 12 letters by the end of boot camp. And then you can see across the board there, they focused on several behaviors that they feel are very, very important. The kindergarten teachers felt were very important to kindergarten success and kindergarten readiness, and you can see across there were increases in all of those areas. And this is from the beginning of boot camp, the first day, to the end of boot camp. So the pre was first day boot camp. And 93% of them were separating from the guardians, which is it's a big deal, and something that they work on. Paying attention, learning how to sit and listen to stories, and all those are really important skills that we teach with our kindergartners, and so they got a head start on all of that.
Maybe we should send some other kids to.
I know, yeah, get them warmed up. And, yeah.
They may need to go in high school.
Yeah. One of the things with boot camp, it's the
teacher to the student ratio is, there are about three teachers or three, adults in the room to up to 20 students. So they're able to really help model and mold some behaviors. Parent surveys, you can see overall that they were very happy with boot camp. The one, it's the lowest on their skills increasing as a result of summer boot camp. Well, if you're looking at writing your name, all of those, they're there 8 days or 7 days or whatever. And the real focus is on getting them ready behaviorally to learn. So they always, the kindergarten teachers always say, we'd like to have them just a little longer because they didn't get to learning all their letters. Well, that's not what, the purpose of it is. Some of the teacher comments, they focused on, what did you see from beginning to end? A lot of it are on the social emotional behaviors. And the greatest gains were in behavior and students feeling comfortable with school. And some of what they learned were that it was nice to have a soft start. So what did they learn as a result of implementing boot camp? The success stories are always fun to read. But I think that what was really good is they were able to identify some concerns that maybe they would need to address later. One of the schools noted that, these students shouldn't be in the same class, and we're going to make sure that they're in different classrooms so that they can be addressing those behaviors. So it gave an eyes-on kind of for some of those students. They're able to note, Taihi noted that they were able to identify some of their learners who came that might need some speech help. So right there, they could get a head start with that. And then Washington had a little boy who cried for 30 minutes the first day, then less each day, until the last day he marched in with a smile. And I like this. It helped his mom, too. She was feeling less guilty by the end. So, that, and it is about the parents there, too, having an easier time. All right. It was boot camp's a great time. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Lori.
Sounds like a great program.
Ms. Pettit,
Hello.
4 items here for you.
Couple of items, yep. So, I think we're second reading for our attendance and transfer policy. We had a couple of suggestions and requests for some clarification from our staff. One from one of our registrars to add the term nighttime residents, because that is what health and welfare uses when they are establishing residence for kids. So we did add the attendance area as your primary nighttime resident. And then the second part of that, we had closed that loophole moving within a boundary. So that's there also. So the other question we had received was from one of our music teachers and needed clarification on how it affected band, orchestra, and choir, and how it would affect their curricular classes that they couldn't be part of. If they had transferred, they had to sit for 365, then they couldn't do any performances, they couldn't do any ensembles. I said, no, you can't do state competitions.
Oh.
And so they can participate in all the local performances they do, and they're fine. It's the state competitions that child can't be part of. So, and they were okay with that. So we would ask that you would continue that on its journey. And then overnight and out of state or overnight requests. We have several from our college and career advisors, a few from our music people, and I will be happy to tell you that we got them all in time before the trips happened. We did receive one of those today, and they got a note back saying, we barely got it on the agenda, and if you send it again this late, the answer will be no, and you'll have to replan your trip. So, but they were all on there, so we're asking for approval for those. We have one person at Pocatello High School that is requesting early graduation. They are going to be going to work full-time, and so are finished with their classes and are requesting early graduation. And then we have, I'll do the proposed camps for Ms. Wilkes. We have one proposed camp request so far for the Little Ram Wrestling Camp, starting the end of January and going through the end of March.
Those early graduation requests, every once in a while, see one of the letters.
I didn't get to see it, but if I get a copy of it, I will forward it to you. Yep.
Especially well written ones.
Yep.
Okay,
And we spend a lot of time trying to talk them out of it and to try taking, if they're planning on going on to college, to start taking some dual enrollment classes. They can go on campus right now and take classes. And this particular one just wants to go to work, so. Questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Let's see, business operations, Bert Reed.
All right. Well, the Idaho General Fund Revenue Report for the month of September is in. And you can see that overall for the first 3 months of the fiscal year, we're about $11 million ahead of the game, which is good news. And they're thinking that we might be able to meet our projections as they initially had forecasted, but we'll see how, when we get into some of those higher revenue months, we'll see how that goes. So overall right now, doing pretty well. The food service report is between free and reduced is sitting at about 46%, so that's pretty consistent with where we've been for the last little while. Probably lower, but consistent with where we've been since this year. Once a year, we receive hopefully we receive a dividend check from ISBA. This year we received $14,307, which is a dividend refund over and above the premiums that we pay. So we just put that back into our other local revenue and offset our overall cost for the district. But it's always nice to get something back rather than paying something out. In your packet under item D, you'll see the response to the financial audit report that was presented by PCCS this last week. And as you had an opportunity to listen to their presentation and see their financial report, it appears that everything is in good order. They appear to be financially sound and doing well. And so this letter just reflects what we heard from them and some encouragement to obviously look at some of those factors like their school lunch program and so forth as they move forward. Item E is an annual routine item that we bring to you as a board requesting permission to bid the various projects for our capital improvement programs. You can see there from carpeting to boilers, electrical, every different category of bid that we may have go out. We ask you to approve beforehand. That allows us to get the bids submitted quickly and before the market gets too saturated with bids and hopefully get some better pricing. This past year, I guess I should say, or this year's budget that we're in right now, for this work that was done this past summer, we didn't see much favorable bidding prices. Overall, I think that we came in under our overall bid estimate, but we didn't see those tens or thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars of savings that we've seen in the past. I think the market is just much tighter than what it has been. But it's always good to get out early and make the best go of it.
Now, will these bids include for our next summer projects?
Yes, they will. We're working on them right now. We will have our capital improvement program committee meet. I think our first meeting is late November, early December, and we'll start prioritizing those projects. And once we bring a recommendation back to the school board, then we'll move forward with starting to get some of those bids out. So you'll see them probably anywhere between January through April. You'll see most of those bids come through. The last item, item F, is a new VIVA trustee. The terms for the VIVA trustees are only for 2 years, and we have a PEA, Pocatello Education Association representative, whose term has expired, who is Luann Clausen, and we are suggesting that. This is for.
No, I think you're
That's right.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I'm trying to find the name here on who the new appointed person.
Sandra Kenny.
Oh, Mrs. Kenny, right?
Yeah.
Is the newly appointed trustee that we would ask the board to approve by way of action when we get to that point. We did not budget any money to be dispersed toward out of the VIVA trust for this year, but there are a couple items routinely that we have to meet as far as the financial position of the trust and just take care of any minor type of business, probably a couple meetings, so we would ask for that approval at the end of the meeting.
We have an addendum item, G, on the facilities levy.
Oh.
You have that?
I should have that, but I don't have that in here.
Okay.
I can talk to that briefly if you'd like, and if you, Dr. Howell, if you want to add anything, that would be fine. Thank you, because that is something extremely important that will be coming up here in March, where we will go out again for another 10-year school plant facility levy. This is kind of a unique levy where it's not just for 1 or 2 years, but you can actually go up to 10 years for this particular levy. It has been in place in our district now for, I believe, 60 years. And this will be the next decade of school plant facility levy that we hope to get voter approval on. This is what maintains our wonderful cities, sites and schools in Pocatello and Chubbuck here. And we use that for building construction. We use that for roofing repairs, for carpeting, for any kind of renovation, equipment purchases, or major construction. And if this levy was not in place, all of these dollars would have to come forth from our general fund. And that would be a significant drain on our resources and what we're able to do with our instructional program. So we are, over the next month or so, I think that this has to come back to the board for resolution by December, if I remember correctly. And so next month in November, we'll bring you some more data and some more information in regard to some facts, what the levy will mean, the passage rate, and things of that nature, and make sure that you're fully informed. And I'm sure that we'll be out making several presentations out in the community and making sure that we get this noticed and advertised as widely as we possibly can, so that the patrons understand how these funds are utilized in our district. Anything you'd like to add, Dr. Howell?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you for reminding me.
Okay. Employee services, Mr. Smart.
All right. 4 short items on my section of the agenda tonight. First one, of course, is we always give you a little bit of an update on Infinite Campus and technology and IC and that sort of thing. Infinite Campus, I don't really have any news to tell you, so let's just skip to the next one, IC. IC, of course, is that ongoing submission to the state. And the first submission is actually due today. And Mike and I have been working all afternoon and all morning trying to get the last 360 errors resolved before we could submit it at midnight tonight. And so we've been emailing back and forth. That's why I'm a little late getting in here. But we're getting close. And so this is earlier than typically what we'd have to. We'd usually have a few more days to get this submitted to the state. But for one reason or another, they had a hard deadline of October 15th. So that's what we're dealing with. Then we have another one, of course, in a month that we can make any adjustments to any errors we might get slipped through on this one. Technology updates. Funny enough, Kevin would come in while we were actually doing our broadcast here tonight. He loves all things technology, Mr. Kevin Chatfield. And you won't be able to see this as you're sitting here, but those people who are watching your broadcast tonight on Facebook, anything that's displayed on the screen, he's able to put on Facebook so it's easier to see. And so he was really excited about it. He had to come and tell somebody. So anyway, they're doing some wonderful things in technology, and they're always looking out to see what they can do better. Right now, I can tell you that security is a big issue that we're trying to keep in the forefront of everybody's minds. We've had a couple of instances over the last year or so of some school districts getting hit with some crypto virus, and some of them you don't hear about, and some of you do. But we're very cognizant of the issues that is presenting to us, and so right now that's one of the big projects that they're looking at trying to resolve, so we keep ourselves safe from those crypto viruses. In your packet, student enrollment information. We only have 2 months under our belts for the new year, so there's not a lot of detail there. We are we don't have as many students as we thought we were gonna have when we did put our projection together last spring. And so, of course, when you don't have as many students as you thought you were going to have, your state funding is gonna be a little bit lower. So we're already anticipating some lower state funding. It all depends, though, upon how well our kids actually attend school. So after this submission, we will be able to probably have a better idea, IC submission, of where our ADA actually ends up and how it might impact our state funding. Also in your packet is a wellness dashboard for the month of September. This is the first set of data for our new plan year. And as you can see there, it's not doing too bad again.
But this is bills from August that are hitting the September
That's true.
report.
That's true.
So it's still, and it's really a good report that we're
Yeah,
getting today.
exactly.
They're gonna pay us.
Don't know if we could get to that point or not, but it would be nice. But we did get a claim summary from Pacific Source for the entire year, and for the entire year it was about 74%. So
They should pay us.
it should pay us, right? And so we did very well this last year. It offset some nasty years we've had in the last 2 or 3. And Mr. Matson, you sit on our insurance committee. You know some of those reports that we've had to deal with. And so this is kind of nice to see this sort of scenario happen. It doesn't happen all the time. We would like to think it's a result of some of the things we're doing as a district to have people be aware of their health conditions. And so
Are we bragging about that? Are we sending it out, send it all to all of our employees, let them know that some of them
we will have that opportunity. The only problem is you know, we have this conversation with our carriers and with Lockton all the time. It's almost impossible to have a one-to-one relationship and point to one thing you're doing. And so, is it a good year? Yes, it's a good year, but can we point to one thing that we're doing? Probably not, but everything helps. And so, and we've had that conversation in the past. And just to let you know, we did have flu shots here during the week that we had a Pick Our Passion. In fact, we had a room set up at Pick Your Passion, and people could just walk in. And we did 170 flu shots up there or so on that Friday. On a Monday afternoon here, we did close to 210 or something like that. So trying to get people an easy way to get their flu shots, and so that's what we're trying to do. The last thing I want to share with you is, and I don't want to go through this in great detail, is the Lockton Stewardship Report. And they give us this every year. It's their way of trying to show the board that they are doing their job on our behalf. And the primary purpose of this report is to document the key activities that Lockton does for us and our behalf. And there are several things in this document that we could highlight. One of the big things this last year was, and I had apprehension when Chris mentioned this. Chris Staples is our main contact in Denver with Lockton, and he suggested that we maybe go out and test the market for medical insurance. And lo and behold, it worked in our favor, and so that was a big. It was a big kudos for them for suggesting it and going through the process of making it happen. And so we did have it listed shy of 3% increase for our medical, which is very different from what we've had in the last several years. And so we were able to actually enhance some of our other insurance benefits because of the savings we had on our medical. And you can go through this document and see the other things that they have to say. And one of the big things on the very end is they keep in contact with Pacific Source and keep them on their toes to do the best job that they should be doing for us as a district. On page 8, there's probably an acronym you don't understand or probably don't know what it means, but it says Reviewed Carrier SBCs, and that's the summary of benefits and coverage. So they review all those documents that we have to have out there for federal government and Social Security and health and welfare. So they do a great job for us. They're very knowledgeable in the insurance business, and so they have been very great to work with. Very great to work with. Money well spent. So with that, unless you have other questions, that'll conclude my report tonight.
No, thank you, Carl. Now it's time for the superintendent's report. What do you have for us?
I just have a calendar for you.
Okay.
And so taking a look at that, looks like Judge Murray's meeting was this morning. And then
Yep.
we had a discipline meeting prior to our regular board meeting tonight. We're showing some student disciplines for you, hearings next Wednesday at 4:30, but I think those may be a little earlier in the day.
Yes, I did some schedule reworking this afternoon, so you should have all got new invites
I saw
for
that.
student discipline and to reschedule the bond proposals meeting.
That was because of me, one of those, right?
Well,
You both went.
One of
then.
that's all right.
Yeah, well, one of them. I have a track meet to go to.
Oh,
Well, that's great. I think
Oh, no, it works out great for everybody to do it.
we just
All right.
combine it. You just combine them kind of one after the other,
Yeah.
right?
Which we're actually not showing one for tomorrow, though, correct? We're going to
The
have
meeting
our
for
meeting
tomorrow.
to discuss the possibility of a special meeting next Wednesday to
Right.
tie into that student.
That's at 1 o'clock tomorrow.
Yes, tomorrow we'll just have a short 5-minute meeting to set a deadline for any more proposals, and then we're
On the
cutting it
bottom.
off.
Okay.
Is it 1 or
1 o'clock. And then the following
Jane,
one's
maybe
in
you're
February will
dreaming.
be at
Okay, yeah, so glad we were able to clear that up. It wasn't on your calendar here. Then October 24th, District Curriculum Committee, Mr. Manson, Mrs. Gephardt.
Can't do that and the joint cities, I'm sorry.
Oh, holy cow, yep. And then, yeah, overlapping would be a 9-10.
Where would you like us at?
Probably the joint city-county meeting. Let me visit with Chuck and see what's on the agenda there for next week, and then maybe
Where
I'll
did I
let you
assume?
decide.
I don't know.
Where did I assume? We don't know.
We don't know where we're meeting.
To be determined, I still haven't heard.
It's
I
supposed to
talked-
be the county.
Yeah,
That's what I was thinking
I
too.
think it will be at the county commissioners'
Okay.
chambers.
Yeah.
But Courtney said she hadn't gotten anything concrete and was leaving it to be determined until they let us know.
Okay, and I'll check with her
Yeah.
tomorrow.
So let me reiterate, on the 23rd, we don't have any student disciplines?
We will have one.
It'll be earlier in the day, we're thinking.
We're doing the early in the day, but
Yeah. So we'll
that's
just do
the,
it immediately following your
yeah,
special.
okay.
Good.
Yeah, all right.
Okay, October 29th, instructional technology, it looks like. October 30th, key communicators.
What are we
And,
gonna talk about?
I don't know, Courtney and I sat down and made, kind of an outline of items that we would like to discuss over the course of the next few months. So we mixed it up in that last one, so I'm not real sure. I can't remember what we're doing this one, but I know Chuck's gonna talk a little bit about the student parent surveys, which the board heard about last week at work session. And,
Oh, and I meant to thank him for sending that other information
Oh,
too.
yeah.
Yeah,
I'll
that
let
was
you know.
good.
Yeah.
so other than that, I'll let you know. I'll get you an agenda of items out. And then November 4th, we have board school visits. You can see your various assignments there. The 5th Tuesday is election day. The 6th through the 8th, we have the ISBA annual conference in Coeur d'Alene,
When do we fly?
We're
On
leaving
what
on-
if-
probably
The
Tuesday.
6th, is Tuesday the 5th or the 6th?
Tuesday's the
Tuesday's
5th.
5th.
Yeah.
So I
it'll be
think-
Tuesday
Yeah, we leave the 5th and
in
then
the
the
morning.
conference is the 6th.
Do we fly like to Salt Lake and then from Salt Lake to Spokane?
Yeah, Pocatello is, I think it's later.
That's the only, that's the only way we have.
Yeah.
And that's the only time we've got other than,
One time we
But we
went
are-
to Seattle, but that was on the
No,
way
that was
home.
coming back and it was
Yeah.
the,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, it was, yeah.
Um,
Well, I think it
Because
was cheap.
Oh, that's
It was
right.
probably cheaper.
Because the 5th is elections, just know that we can do early
Early
elections
voting.
starting
Early
today.
Today.
say, it's, I
Okay.
by there and they're.
Oh, yeah? Yeah. It's election day.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. It's crazy.
So,
All right, Veterans Day on the 11th of November, and that takes us out to November 12th, regular board meeting. I think
Okay.
that gives you about a month ahead.
Okay,
Okay.
They got the festival schedule.
Oh, festival, it is in here.
It
Yeah,
is.
I saw
Where
it
is
down
festival?
below.
Is it in here?
The gala event
Oh, yeah.
on the 19th,
actually,
and then
January
employee appreciation on the 20th.
The 12th. Okay.
So do we, on that gala event, do we need to tell them if our spouses are coming?
well, I think we have to pay for them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I think that's
yeah.
a little bit.
We're still paying for our spouses, is that right?
Unless we can pull something off.
Right.
We'll check with Courtney.
Okay.
See what we can do. Yeah, sometimes we have a corporate sponsor, so we'll see what we can do there.
That's, yeah, that's what she told me last year. They had all the corporate sponsors, but I
Okay,
didn't know.
all right.
So you might just ask her about that,
I sure will.
because we need to take care of that when they go on sale the 25th, did she say? The tickets of this month, so.
That's for all the children's tea and
Yeah.
ladies' tea and,
The game is a little bit different. Pre-booked for sponsors.
Okay, now it's time for a public comment for items that were on the agenda, and haven't received none, so we'll pass on that. Moving on to the action items, the first item of business to accept the comprehensive annual financial report and certify the annual financial condition statement. Is there a motion?
I move that we accept the comprehensive annual financial report and certify the annual financial condition statement.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
I,
Aye. Carrying all to the positive, this motion is passed. The next item of business is to hear on second reading for adoption the following policy, 8106, district attendance areas and student transfer. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board hear on second reading for adoption, the district attendance areas and student transfer policy 8106.
I second the motion.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hearing all in the positive, that motion is passed. The next item of business is to approve the out-of-state overnight travel request. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board approve the out-of-state overnight travel request as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That motion is passed. The next item of business is to approve the early graduation request. Is there a motion?
I move we approve the early graduation request.
And I'll second.
Okay. Discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Hearing all in favor, that motion is passed. The next item of business is to approve the camp request, the only camp request. Is there a motion?
I move that the board approve the camp request as presented.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion is passed. The next item of business is to approve the Pocatello Community Charter School Financial Audit Management Letter and direct submission to PCCS.
I hereby move that the board approve the PCCS financial audit management letter and direct the administration to submit the letter to PCCS as presented.
I'll second.
Sounds good. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion is passed. The next item of business is to grant permission to bid the 2020-21 SIP-related projects.
I hereby move the board grant permission to bid 2020-21 SIP-related projects as presented.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All in the positive, that motion is passed. The last one is to appoint the VIBA trustee. Is there a motion?
Do you need to
I hereby move that the board appoint the new Viva trustee as presented.
As presented.
As
There you go.
presented, thank you.
Ah, good.
I'll second.
Second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion is passed. This concludes this meeting. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is passed and we adjourn.
Don't waste the hammer.